Hey love bug, it's me, Emma Upton, clarity alchemist, resistance evaporator, magic map maker, and welcome to Let's Build the Real Thing. This is the podcast where you remember where you put the map to your work, and you do it in a way that feels like an adventure, not a checklist, not a job title, a wild, sacred calling that feels like a boiling hot bath, a scalding brew, and your fave bickies. I built this in the messiest season of my life. Twin babies, full-time teaching, husband away every week, and a brain that never let me rest. No spare time, no sabbatical, just a deep pull that I couldn't ignore anymore. So I followed it. I created the Be Anxiety Free Find formula from scratch, turned it into a global program, published a book, and left teaching in 2021 to do this full time. Now, I help powerful women bring their work to life, the thing they can't stop thinking about. We tap your magic so the map becomes real, and then we build it together. Let's build the real thing. Why just do it isn't as obvious as just do it, because if you have been recognizing and realizing the plan isn't actually working, my trio are leading me down the same path over and over again to get just a better version of the same results that feel just as hollow, and I'm not sure what to do about it, and you can see that clearly, and you're at a point where you've had multiple awakenings to get to that point and realize that the gold that we've been sold on is just the worst. Is it Miser's Touch? The story of everything, like, oh my God, everything that I touch turns to gold. And it's like, that seems like a really cool idea until everything you touch turns to gold and you've got nothing living, breathing, real, alive in your life. Then you have the realization of like the idea of not doing that, of sitting, even for something like 10 minutes every single day, feels like a burden, feels like it would be pointless, feels like that. Why would I do that? I don't want to do that. Why? What's the end result? What's the product? What's the point? And very quickly we realize, holy shit, we are just in a capitalist wheel, and I am a big part of the system. Me too. This isn't me talking about you. This is me like having this realization and multiple awakenings again and again and again. So you've realized, and maybe you've sat with because you really want something different, your 10 minutes, and realized how much that isn't simple for you. Good. And you're still here, and you're in the third part of this, which is power. This is going to make the whole thing easy. It's not simple, but it is easy. You were born to do this. You were born. It's like breathing. It's like blinking. It's like your heart beating. You are here for something so beautiful. It makes you want to cry. The first time you touch it, I love those messages. The first time we touch it, we're like, what? I've been missing out on this for like gold? No. Okay. This is not simple though. For that ease, for it to feel like breathing, to feel like a heartbeat, you've got to go into places that do not seem simple. And only because you have a trio of terror inside your brain that wants everything to stay the same. It's going, no, the gold's working. You just need more of it. You just need more. Don't worry about what this weirdo's saying to you. Like, I know. Keep with the strategy. Keep with what we've done multiple times. Let's just make it bigger and better. That's the bit that makes it non-simple. But it's very easy. It's what you were born to do. And I have to remind myself when I'm in the trenches with my trio, being like, remember, this gets to be like breathing. How does it feel like breathing? It doesn't feel like breathing. I feel like I can't breathe. Right now, you are walking around with what I call emotional bouncy balls. If you've got my book, Be Anxiety Free Forever, it is the Friday part of the work, the Feel It Friday part of the work, where I love using metaphors and things that my trio can see. I'm a very visual person. As soon as you put it in a story or a metaphor, I'm like, got it. You go through life and life hits you hard because you are human. And I don't need to know you to know that about you. You're thinking of the things right now being like, yeah, I've had some blows, because that is the nature of being human. And every time one of those blows hits us, imagine it being like a bouncy ball, an emotional bouncy ball. They're not consistent in size. Sometimes they're teeny tiny and they don't really feel that much. Sometimes they feel like the size of beach balls, the really big ones, and you've just been taken out by it and you don't know how you're going to recover. For our whole life, we're told, mainly by our parents who love us, but good God, we're told that we're made out like we don't know. Like there's something kind of wrong with us and we don't know that they know better. If only we could listen to them and operate in the ways that they think we should, then we'd know better, then it would be better, then we'd be better, and then life would feel better. So we get hit by these emotional bouncy balls, and instead of feeling them and being like, wow, that was a big hit, holy shit balls, and we feel them and we let them pass through us, what actually happens is they hit us hard, and the whole world says, that shouldn't hurt, that shouldn't be a problem, what's wrong with you? Like, I can deal with that, just deal with it. Just however they went about it, what they said to you was, and the teachers do it, and the bosses that you get as an adult do it, everybody is trying to make out like they know, and to make themselves feel stronger, they make out like you don't know, and if you just did it their way, then it would be good, and it makes them feel better, but it makes you feel horrible. So we're all walking around with these shitty things that have happened to us that some feel heavier than others. And we think like they're our fault. They think they're our problem. We think that there's this strategy or this answer outside of us that if we could just operate in this way, then we wouldn't feel their heaviness anymore. They wouldn't feel so intense and so uncomfortable and so painful. If only we could X, then we wouldn't feel Y. And that's why our work can never land. For most people, they will tap out of this existence never having touched, never having taken in a full breath, never having really felt a true heartbeat of their own existence, being able to put their hand on their chest, being like, yeah, there's my heart, but not actually knowing it. It makes me emotional. Don't mind me crying. Oh. And the reason is we're just full to the brim. Not only with the things that we talked about yesterday, with the tactical, tangible, strategic things that we put above anything to do with ourselves, and the idea of being in love with ourselves and our life and our work. Everything else holds precedence over any of that soppy nonsense that's just hippie shit for people living in the woods with no shoes on. The world scorns that, and we don't want to be those people because we don't want to be thought about those ways. We are heavy with these feelings that we think we shouldn't feel and we think are our fault. And what happens and why your work can't come through is we spend our whole life operating, trying not to feel them, because we feel shitty that they're even there. So we go out of our way to avoid them. And I'm not just talking big stuff here. We think it is. We think it's like the big life-stopping, life-altering moments of death or violence but it hardly ever is. Sometimes it is, and there are elements of it, but mostly it's these moments where we're just skirting and skipping around the truth. Somebody's behavior makes us feel a certain way, and rather than in the moment addressing that behavior and saying, hey, what the hell, what's going on? And not doing it from this triggered space of stop that, that's disrespectful, I'm standing in my power, I'm speaking my truth, because that just pisses people off. I don't know if you're that way inclined, but you probably don't have many friends. And you're saying, well, my circle's reduced because I speak my truth. It's like, no, you're probably an idiot. You're probably behaving like an idiot. Ask me how I know, because I did this and I hurt a lot of people that I love. No, that's not speaking your truth. That's not understanding your own energies and your own emotions well enough to be able to navigate and handle them and just interrupt the toxic behaviors that are probably happening that you do need to stand up to, but not in that way, because that just turns the whole world against you and that feels just as bad. It's a real light energy of, hey, that's not okay. Just so you know, like, I'm not here for that. Can we do that? And there's a lightness to it, and you can be a cycle disturber without devastating everybody that you love and maintaining most of the relationships. Not every can come along. Not everybody is open to it, and some people, but they will distance from you if you're catching them out on your shit. No, if you're calling them out on their shit very quickly, in a very level, very grounded, very open, very this just isn't okay kind of way, if they don't love you truly, they will just drift. And that's okay as well. I digress there, but it's an important point. When we can learn to be in the moment of feeling what is coming up for us and being able to address it right there and then with a lightness of, wow, this isn't okay. Suddenly, we're not trying to avoid those emotional bouncy balls. We're not dancing around them anymore. We're not trying awkwardly to avoid situations or people or doing things in the fear of disturbing an emotional bouncy ball that feels horrible and we're going to want to escape from it or we're going to get angry about it. All of a sudden, because we're addressing these things as they're coming up, we're making space. That emotional bouncy ball that has been lead weight inside you for your whole life just leaves. You don't have to do anything to make it go. There aren't mantras, there aren't scriptures. You don't have to. It just goes. It just evaporates. It just ceases to exist because there's no energy being fed into it anymore. All by being willing to address what's going on in real time right now. And when we're willing to do that, say, for example, you dread coming home when your husband's had the kids because he can't handle it the way that you do. He gets lost and flustered and frustrated, and if you've had a long day at work and he's had to pick the kids up and sort them out and whatever, and this is very stereotypical, but it's a lived experience and maybe it will resonate. And even if it doesn't, you can see the patterns that you're operating out of. This is why one-to-one's so helpful, because we can actually get into where your emotional bouncy balls are stuck and we can actually see how to release them. But take this big example. So you come home and he's being a fucking dick. And he's behaving in idiotic ways and he's being tetchy with the kids, which you hate. And he's not being kind to you and you're hungry and you've had a busy day as well. And there's not the first sign of any food being cooked. And you're just left thinking, what even is this? Now, that is stirring up emotional bouncy balls of you don't matter. You're not enough. You're not worth being considered. Your needs aren't important. All of these feelings that are lying underneath you are being triggered and it feels really uncomfortable. So what do you want to do if you're avoiding actually addressing any of those things? You come in, you're like, oh, I'll take over. So you immediately haven't eaten, you just take over with the kids. And then he's hungry. So you start making sure that you're doing food. You sort the kids out. You get them chill. You get them calm. Maybe you put them to bed. Maybe you, whatever it is that needs to happen, you take control. And then you start doing food to make sure that he's not hungry anymore so that he feels better. And then you feel like your nervous system has been regulated enough. Then you can actually tend to something that you need. All the while, nothing has been addressed. Those emotional bouncy balls have not been met. Now, I'm not saying you go out the gate being like, you walk in, you're like, well, you can carry on with the kids. I'm hungry. I'm going to make something to eat. Did you not think to maybe put on an easy meal for us or to think about what... That would be very inflammatory to the situation. That's not what I'm saying to do. But in order to allow the space of those emotions that are coming up for you, you can feel them. You're standing at the threshold of the door and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't actually want to walk through it because I don't know what I'm actually going to be met with. And you feel those energies and those emotions. The work is to be inside the work and to navigate yourself to a place where you can walk into that chaos, because life is chaos. And you can handle it. You can handle that he's in a shitty mood. You can handle that the kids are upset and crying and not getting all their needs met. And that doesn't mean that they're going to turn out into psychopaths that are going to hate you as a mom forever because you didn't tend to their every need. Like, you can just be okay in that situation. Now, you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with my work? Like, how are you proposing that this is directly linked to my work? It's my relationship. How much, and this is a real question for you, how much time and energy do you spend and do you take up trying to orchestrate a life around you so that you don't feel triggered, you don't feel unsure, you don't feel unsafe. Whatever those emotional bouncy balls that are inside you that were thrust upon you and shoved inside to never leave again, it feels like by this point. How much time do you spend orchestrating your life in an attempt to avoid those? How many of the shiny things that you have in your life is an attempt to not feel those things? Because it's in avoiding these things, in spending all of our energy trying to orchestrate a life where we don't feel those things that are weighing us down and feel heavy. And they come up when we reach burnout and we can't keep the facade up anymore. We can't keep getting the trophies. We can't keep creating the gold and being everything to everybody all of the time so that everybody else is okay. We burn out. And it's in those burnouts that those things come up. The weight of those emotional bouncy balls come up so loud and they feel so consuming that you don't feel like you're going to be able to take a breath again. I don't know if that's me being dramatic, but that's my truth. That happens because of our unwillingness to just be with those things day in, day out. Now, you try adding in, and by the way, you're here for a higher purpose and you were chosen, and there's something very specific and explicit that you're here to do in a very explicit and specific way that you're not going to know until you start stepping on the path of actually figuring out what that thing is. And you need a load of space to be able to allow that to come through, because right now you only know the strategy of what has gone before. And that's just the get the gold star strategy. And that isn't going to wash for the deep spiritual work that you're here to do. And even if you're not here to be like some kind of spiritual guru like I'm well into now, your work is spiritual. even if you don't want it to be, it comes from a depth that makes no sense. Every artist who has ever created their work says the exact same thing. I don't know where this shit comes from. Like, it's amazing. I am not clever enough to create this. It comes from somewhere beyond me, deeper than me, more profound than me. That's where the ease comes. That's where the joy and the freedom and the happiness comes from. But you can't access that without space. And you can't make space inside yourself, even if you set aside 10 minutes every single day. Maybe you listened to yesterday's episode and you're doing that. You could do that for the rest of your life and you won't get the answers if you're full to the brim skirting around your life like you're an extra and a facilitator of everybody else's life. And you don't have to burn it all down. Thank you, trio. Well, who's going to do it, Emma? That's not the answer for today. That's a different episode and we can come to that. But for right now, it's making peace with the fact that it is time to be truthful with yourself as to why your work isn't being birthed, because you know you're here for more. Being honest and kind and truthful, and not letting Frances, who's the third part of the trio of terror, come in and say, well, all of her unkind, unhelpful reasons why you're here. You don't need to hear the answers. What you need is a willingness to sit in this space and see it honestly and be like, I'm not making space. I'm avoiding the parts that feel too intense to go into. Now, the good news is therapy doesn't work for me. Like, you can go to a therapist and you can talk about that. Isn't helpful for me. It's about catching it real time, making space in real time. And in that space, your work can land. So in those 10 minutes that you're creating for yourself, you're actually getting the gold. And you will get this is the caveat, you will get the gold, but it will be a filtered gold that makes it a gazillion times harder. I don't know if I have the capacity to be able to interpret that. If that's, your lifetime is short, your work is huge, and the emotional bouncy balls that are writhing around you, that you're skirting around at the moment, is creating a filter that is completely unhelpful and unaiding in this. Your work is to recognize this at this point if you want to do something about it, that's what the whole body of my work, a big part of it, the Be Anxiety Free Forever work, is centered around entirely. But you don't need to do that right now in this podcast episode. You just need to recognize, oh shit, yeah, maybe I am doing that. Maybe that is why there's not enough space for my work and the clarity that I'm craving so badly. And I'm saying, once I've got the clarity, then I'll do it. Maybe that's why. Get curious there and come back to me with any questions that you've got, because I'm here for this kind of conversation day in, day out, all day, every day. If you got to this point, you're for fucking real, just so you know. You are for real, and you are here to create more. And I am so happy that you're alive at the same time as me, and that you're willing to go here. You're a fucking rock star. I love you. So that's us for today. If your soul's whispering, this is it, listen, you're not circling this for no reason. The map is real. The magic is yours. The adventure, it's already underway. You feel it. Tell me what sparked. I'm always on Insta for the big, wild, weird, brilliant conversations. And if you've got a friend who needs this fire too, please share the gold. And remember, your work isn't something you force. It's something you find by remembering what was always yours. I'll speak to you soon. Much love.